met this lady. Oh, yes. We all remember her, don't we? Isn't it funny, though, chums, how she's sort of fallen off the radar? And when you think about the beautiful Zsa Zsa Gabor, you would have thought of all the characters that were in Hollywood in the golden era, people would have remembered her because she was a larger-than-life character, a lot of fun, and, whatever you think, literally knew exactly what to say, how to create attention, and also on top of that, lived a life of full fun. We know that there were sisters, of course, Eva Gabor, and the family itself was just almost, if you think about it in today's terms, they'd have been brilliant on a reality show. Can you imagine Zsa Zsa in her own reality show? But what does this stunning blonde have to do with, of course, the British monarchy? Let me explain. Morning, lovely to see you. Thank you so much for your time today. Yes, Zsa Zsa Gabor. So we'll have a wave. Are you all right? Zsa Zsa Gabor, yes. Met her on a couple of occasions, actually. I was working for a breakfast show at the time and she came over. I don't even know now what she was plugging, but I remember that she had that prince with her, Prince Frederick or something. And there was all this debate about whether he was a real prince or whatever. Zsa Zsa really sort of muddied the waters, But off camera, a very astute businesswoman, no two ways about it. Many people remember her for her relationship, of course, with the husband, George Sanders. And, I think they were a great combination. What I think was interesting about Zsa Zsa was she, a little bit like Eva Gabor, I think she was in Green Gables or Green Acres, something like that. I think the thing is, she was a good actress. She could do it. But I think she realised she could have more money by literally, being the larger-than-life character. And what was also fascinating about Zsa Zsa, when she stayed at places like the Savoy or the Dorchester or something like that, she didn't pay, No. She was very clever. This is called product placement, influence, or whatever you want to call it in today's terms. But she was very clever because she would tip off the media that she was staying there. She would let them know as and when she was, leaving the hotel. And that really gave the acres of free publicity, Zsa Zsa at the Savoy, Zsa Zsa at the Dorchester. So consequently, the bill was wiped. And she wasn't extravagant, according to that source. She literally just liked a little bit of luxury. But as long as you were willing to give her it for free, there wasn't a problem, as you can imagine. Now, she got invited to various royal events, Royal Command film performances, stuff like that, and apparently the royal family truly liked her. The Queen Mother thought she was fabulous because of her pithy put-downs. You remember the famous one, don't get even, get the house and all of that sort of stuff, or, diamonds and all this. She was just wonderful at literally underplaying the fact that really, some might say she married for money, prestige, power, whatever. But she managed to make her career go a very long time. She tried many different things, including being a disco diva, all sorts of things. And she did turn down some really interesting roles that I think would have changed the sort of trajectory of her, career. But what was interesting was, apparently the Duke of Edinburgh was also a huge fan, found a titillatingly good company, and she flirted outrageously with him, and apparently said, in the earshot of Queen Elizabeth, if you ever change your mind about marrying another princess, I will be available. She was married at the time, right? So if you couldn't make this stuff up, could you? So a few years later, apparently, the Queen thought this would be good fun to just get a personal message from Zsa Zsa to wish the Duke of Edinburgh, who was, special birthday at that point, just a personal birthday message. Anyway, it took a lot of time. Now, you've got to remember, this is pre-internet and, telephone calls, and people are a bit suspicious. And according to Zsa Zsa Gabor, and this, is what she told me at the breakfast show, she said that she really was angry because the person who was looking after her at the time just didn't believe that this particular phone call that they kept ringing up from saying, this is X from Buckingham Palace and we'd like to speak to Miss Gabor. She just thought it was some cranky fan. So it actually never got to the point where she could record or film, should we say, in that period, a very special message for the Duke of Edinburgh. And she said, can you imagine how that would have changed my life? Now, at that point, she's looking directly at you, and you are thinking, chums, well, not really, he's married to the Queen. But clearly, Zsa Zsa felt a special message from her perhaps would have changed everything. And maybe it could have been Queen Zsa Zsa, Queen of England. Well, that's what she thought anyway. A fascinating story, literally, when you think, because that was the fun time, the golden age of Hollywood. And the golden rule she passed on to me at the end of this, she said, do not ever allow an assistant to take a big phone call for you, because what might be a crank phone call could be life-changing. And how right was Zsa Zsa Gabor? Neil Sean in the very heart of London.